Hey, fellow rookies, good evening. This is Scott P. I'm here at the Pi Resort, my home, and I'm going to go ahead and pour myself a bottle of 14 Hands Reserve Syrah tonight from 2013 vintage. Now, the reason I'm pouring this kind of got me thinking earlier today. Earlier this week, I had a coworker of mine who is very confused about wine. He was asking how my wife and I got into wine. He was asking, how do we find the flavors, the types of grapes that, that fits his profile? And, I really couldn't answer that. But what I did tell him is that before you go ahead and shoot off to a winery where, they're going to have 5 or 6 or 7 wines out on a tasting table where the lowest priced bottle is $19 a bottle, go to your Hagen for your local grocery store chain, Thriftway, QFC. Those three here in the Pacific Northwest typically have a wine expert on staff. You could go to Safeway or Kroger, which up here is Fred Meyer, or Albertsons, and they're going to have a large wine selection, but they may not have that wine expert on hand. But what that's going to do is when you go into these wine areas in the grocery store, you're going to see a very large selection of some good entry-level wines. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be some excellent wines there as well, but typically the grocery stores are trying to hit a price point between $8 a bottle and $20 a bottle. And so you're going to have companies like 14 Hands. Now, this bottle of Syrah, the 2013 Syrah Reserve, you're not going to find this in a store. You're going to have to go to the winery to get it. But what 14 Hands is going to do is 14 Hands is going to produce a step-down version of this Syrah that's going to be at their stores. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and, yes, invest in an 8 or 10 or 12 or $15 bottle of wine. And go ahead and explore the different grapes, explore the different flavors that are going to have before you go to these wineries. And this is what I told him. I said, the three big wineries really in the state of Washington that are going to provide a good base for exploring wines is Chateau Ste. Michelle, Columbia, and 14 Hands. Now, 14 Hands is based out of Patterson, Washington. That's Eastern Washington. From my house, that's a good 2.5-hour drive. For my coworker, it's the same way. So I told him, if you like reds, go find a 14 Hands Merlot, a 14 Hands Syrah, or a 14 Hands Cabernet Sauvignon. Like I said, typically you're going to find those between $8 and $12 a bottle. So as the new person, he's going to go ahead and hopefully buy one of those. And if he likes it, if you like an entry-level wine like that, that's going to be a good base for you to go ahead and justify going out to the tasting rooms in Eastern Washington or in Woodinville, Washington, or if you're in California, do the same thing. Find a Kendall Jackson wine, try it, and then go out to the winery and you'll find that they have a different subset of wines. It's not that they're inferior wines that you're going to find there at the grocery store. Like I said, a lot of them are damn good wines. That's how my wife and I got started. Okay? But you're going to realize that the winemakers, because they're trying to hit that price point, what they want to do is they want to get you into their wine. They want you to explore their wine. So again, going back to the 14 Hands example, my wife and I really got kind of started on Chateau Ste. Michelle and 14 Hands. Well, on my way out to a flea market event out in the Tri-Cities, I decided to stop by 14 Hands and try one of their reserve wines, which is what exactly I did. And I found, this is a really good wine. And there's a deeper variant of complexity to their reserve wines. And that's what you're going to find as you grow with wines. Anyways, let's talk about the Syrah. Washington State does not have, and the wine industry does not have, an official grape. But if you talk to a lot of experts in the Washington State wine industry, they will tell you that Syrah is probably the one grape. If there was a grape to define Washington State wines, it would be the Syrah. The gentleman known as the Unknown Winecaster, he does his podcast and YouTube out of Washington State here. He will tell you the same thing. Now, what makes Syrah so special? Syrah is typically a full-bodied wine, full fruit, with medium tannins and low acidity. This particular wine here, if you take a look at it, it's a very deep, almost purple. It is more of a dark ruby or dark garnet color. Take a look at it, you put it up against white light. It's very, very deep. You're not going to see a whole lot of light coming through it. And typically with Syrahs, and especially the 14 Hands, right off the nose, I'm getting a deep, dark cherry, a dark plum note, almost like a stone fruit. The stone fruit would be the fruits that have that hard pit in the center. There's also kind of an earthy hay note that I do find that I enjoy in a lot of Washington State Syrahs. There's also maybe a little bit of minerality behind there, and a lot of people will take that minerality and conflate it with, well, for me, the minerality and the hay note kind of goes together. Boy, that smells good. Let's go ahead and take a sip of it. Now, the one thing I do find, yeah, the fruit on this is very forward. Now, this one happens to be a medium-bodied, almost, I'd say a medium to medium heavy type of tannin structure to it. It does dry out my mouth just a little bit. There is a little bit of acidity that I can taste on it, but not a whole lot. But this is definitely a very fruit-forward wine. And what I mean by fruit forward is on my palate, what I was smelling on the nose, the dark cherries, the dark plum, it's right there. And the nice thing about this particular Syrah, 2013 was a great year for the state of Washington, as was 2015. It's sitting there, it's a long finish, and it's not jammy. For me personally, when I find off-turning, I guess would be the phrase, is where a wine is so fruit forward it tastes like you're drinking preserves or jam. Not this particular case. Now, this particular bottle, I believe, when I purchased it at the winery itself, I want to say it was about $29. It was between $25 and $33 for a bottle of this. Now, that's going to seem high to a lot of you guys who are new to wine. I'm not asking you to go out and buy this particular wine, but what I am using this wine as an example is where you can grow to when you get into the wine journey. Now, this particular wine here, let's see here, this has this fairly high alcohol content. It's got 14.5% alcohol by volume. I don't taste the alcohol in it as much. It's the fruit is kind of overpowering it. But what I will say is that this Syrah here is your next step. This is a good example of what a Washington State Syrah can be. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and conclude tonight. I did try to put out a video last week for Thanksgiving recommendations. Unfortunately, my editing program, which I'm just learning how to use, was not being very cooperative. So I am going to be trying to put out a new video at least once a week. If you have any questions, please go ahead and place them in the comments below. Look forward to answering any comments that you guys might have. Also, if you found my channel and this information to be helpful, please go ahead and hit subscribe. And then go ahead and hit the bell button right next to it there so that you're notified when I do put new videos up. Anyways, other than that, I want to thank you all for showing up and watching the video. If you have any questions, like I said, just go ahead and leave a comment and I will try to answer as best I can. The only thing I want to leave you with is, please, as you do open the bottle, please make sure you drink responsibly. And remember, life is too short for either bad wine or bad whiskey. So long.